Hello class 5. Let's have our online English language class. As we completed the chapters for our first term examination, our syllabus is completed already and we are going to the revision classes. And in my previous class, I started the chapter 3, the mountain that ate people, revision of chapter 3. And we are continuing this chapter. It's a very interesting story. Actually, it's a story by the author Hema Pandey, and the story is actually a Japanese folk tales. So in my previous class I told you already, revised that the story is a folk tale from Japan. And long ago in Japan, there was a small state. And the ruler was a young feudal lord who hated old people. His thought was like that, the old people can neither work nor think, so they are useless and should die after they are 61. So he issued a decree and threatened that whoever broke it would be punished. The feudal lord was so cruel, all the people terrified and sorrowful because they all were forced to take their old parents to the dense forests or the high mountain near the city and leave them in the cold and rain. And finally, the wild animals ate them all. Soon there were no more old people were there, and the feudal lord was very happy because he was sure that his state will prosper, as all are young and energetic there and no aged folk to give trouble. Now there was a farmer who loved his mother a lot. As his mother became 61, he should have to leave her to the mountain. One day, with a sorrowful heart, the farmer took her mother up on his back and climbed up the mountain. As he climbed up higher and higher, his mother broke off twigs from the tree. On asking the cause, she replied that she broke and threw those twigs to make the sign that could help her son to find the way back to home in the dense forest. And now the remaining part. So, actually his mother said that just now it's dark, but when the moon rises, you will find your way back safely, following these twigs through the dismal forest. Dismal meaning actually gloomy and hopeless. Hearing her loving words, the farmer wept bitterly as he helped her down to the stony ground. His mother's heart-touching words touched the farmer a lot. There was a lot of love in those words. So the farmer wept a lot and helped mother to sat on the stony ground, the forest. Mother, mother, he cried, even at such a terrible time as now, how can you still think of me? Even though I am carrying you to your death, he sobbed. The farmer's heart was very sorrowful. And always the mother loves their children, always, even at her deathbed. The mothers always loves and care for their children. Mothers are like that. So the farmer said that even on that terrible time, when she was just going to the door of death, on that moment she still think of her son. "There is nothing strange about my thoughts," smiled the mother gently. "I was so joyful when you were born and never minded any hardships to bring you up. My son, it's very natural for me to care and think of you." Her mother gently replied when the farmer cried a lot and wept with a sobbing sound. He told to his mother that how you can think for me now in this moment. Then the mother gently replied that when her child, that farmer, was born, then there was no hardship to bring him up. So it's very natural for her to take care and think of him. "Never, never will I leave you, mother, in this dreadful place," cried the farmer. The farmer cried again and not wanted to leave her on that place. "I will gladly accept any punishment from the feudal lord, rather than let you die here." And he picked his mother up again. And then the farmer was determined that if there was any punishment for him from the feudal lord, but he didn't leave her mother there to die. So both of them returned down the mountain that ate people and quietly hid among the bushes on the edge of the forest. So taking actually his mother back, the farmer returned down the mountain and hid among the bushes. When the entire village was fast asleep, they crept back stealthily to their little home. At midnight, when the village was asleep, all the villagers, then they back to their little home. The farmer worked hard day and night, digging up the floor within the house. He made a small room under the ground, hid the old mother in there, and looked after her well. The farmer dug a hole under the floor, and there hid his old mother. During the day, he tended his fields cheerfully as usual, never letting anyone know his dreaded secret. So he was happy then, as he knew that his mother is with him. And so he was cheerful at the daytime when he was working on the field. A year passed, and yet another. So 2 years passed by. One day, the mighty overlord of the neighboring state came thundering with his army and horses and waged war against the feudal lord, defeating him. So one day, after about 2 years, mighty overlord from the neighboring state came there, and there was a war, and the feudal lord was defeated. The defeated feudal lord pleaded for his people again and again. At last the victorious lord took pity on him, saying, if you solve correctly the problem I said to you, the lives of your subjects will be spared. So, the overlord said to the feudal lord that he will forgive the people if the feudal lord can solve the problem which will be given by the overlord. But when the feudal lord heard the problem, he was utterly dumbfounded. That means extremely surprised. When the feudal lord was extremely surprised when he heard the problem of the witch given to him. Actually, calling his nobles, he sent a proclamation throughout the land that whosoever could solve it. So, which would be whoever can solve it would be richly rewarded. Now the problem, what was the problem? Which was surprising very much. The problem was, take 1,000 strings, tie them into a bundle and burn it to ashes. How can you then bring the bundle to me completely intact? An impossible riddle was that. Obviously, 1,000 strings tied down with a bundle, and if burn it to ashes, and how can one bring the bundle completely intact? Many days went by, but none could think of a correct solution. The farmer too heard of it, and returning home told his mother, who laughed heartily. Anyone didn't know about his mother, na? So when returning home, the farmer told all that about the impossible riddle to his mother, and hearing that, the old woman laughed. Don't you worry, son, I'll tell you. Make a bundle out of 1,000 strings, soak it in a sea water, and dry it well in the sun. So, even if this is burnt to ashes, it can still be carried intact to the mighty overlord. So, she suggested that if a bundle of 1,000 strings can be soaked in sea water and then dried with under the sun ray, then if it burnt to ashes, it can still intact. The farmer ran to the court of the feudal lord and, bowing low, told him what his mother had said. The farmer then and there ran to the feudal lord and told all the solution which his mother suggested. How thankful and relieved the lord was. He praised the farmer and gave him lots of money and lovely presents. So, actually the feudal lord then get the solution. So, he praised the farmer and gave him a lot of money and presents. After some time, the great overlord sent a messenger to the feudal lord with another problem, which was much more difficult. After some time, actually the overlord sent a messenger to the feudal lord that with another difficult problem. How is it possible to pull a silken thread through a narrow pipe with 7 bends? The problem was like that. How is it possible to pull a silk thread through a pipe with 7 bends? If you cannot reply correctly, said the messenger, my overlord will ransack your entire state. Ransack means actually damage the interstate. The feudal lord, trembling and fearful, again sent a proclamation across the land. Hearing Hearing it, again the farmer hurried home to tell his old mother, hidden away in her little room. The farmer again told all the problem to the mother. It is very simple, my son, said the mother. Let our master get a narrow pipe and made with 7 bends. Place it on the ground and put plenty of sugar at one end. Then tie a silken thread round a large ant and release it at the opposite end. Surely the ant will pull the silken thread through the pipe, not only through 7 bends but through 70, she added, laughing. So his mother, the farmer's mother, old mother, again give a solution of the difficult problem. The solution was like that if the master get a narrow pipe and with 7 bends, then place it in the ground, and if one can put a lot of sugar at one end and then tie a silk thread round a large ant and then release it at the opposite end. Then the ant pull the silken thread through the pipe in search of the sugar. So then the silk thread easily can go through the 7 bended pipe. So it was the solution. Now the story is a long one and I'll tell you the remaining part of the story. I will read again the remaining part of the story in my next class. Okay, so read the story several times and try to understand very well. Okay, so bye for today and you all stay safe. Take care of yourself.